Hey guys, you're welcome back to my channel. My name is Debbie. Please subscribe to this channel for more videos, more tutorials on pattern making, ideas and tips. Yeah, and also tap the notification bell for notifications each time there is an upload on this channel. Today we are making a pattern and it's a very lovely and unique one. It's about a flange. A flange is an extension or a part of a pattern that forms a continuation of the garment. For example, it could be a fabric piece or a certain kind of fabric piece or pattern piece that is being attached into a style line on the pattern. You know, I don't know if you guys really understand what I'm saying, but in this video, I'll be showing you how to, alter your basic bodice pattern so that it will be able to at least accommodate a flange, a certain flange. And I'll also be showing you how to draft a pattern for a flange inset. This picture on the screen right now, it is a flange. A flange inset. What I mean by flange inset is a piece of fabric that is being shaped. Just anyhow you desire it, you can shape it anyhow. Then you pick it up and you insert it, you set it into a style line. That is basically what I am here to show you how to do. You make a pattern for a flange, you call it out, then you put it into your style line. Simple as that. And how do you, open up this so-called style line is what this video is all about. Okay, so let's get started. This is a pure pattern making class, so you need to pay maximum attention. All right, so for this flange effect, I am going to be moving my bust dart to my waistline, and the reason is because my flange is going to be attached on this side of the bodice. Okay, so that's why I need to make this side free from, all of this dart. Like I said, I'm going to be transferring this dart to this point. I'm sure you already know how to do that, so I'll be doing that off camera. I have transferred the bust dart to the waist line. So my darts start from this line, this dart leg to this line. Okay, so this is going to be my dart. So now I'll be working on the two patterns at the same time, meaning that whatever I do on this pattern, I will do the same on this pattern, and whatever I do here, I'm going to do the same here. Okay, so let me just bring my front to my side. All right, so this is the front, this center front. I will measure 2 inches in and mark, and I will do the same thing here. Remember that my center back is here, my zipper allowance is the brown paper. So if I measure 2 inches from the center front inward, I will measure 2 inches from here center back inward as well. Okay, and I will mark. Don't forget. On the front pattern, this is my dart leg. Okay, and I will measure 1 inch from this dart leg inward. 1 inch, is it outward now? 1 inch outward. Okay, so and I will mark it as well. So from this point to this point, 1 inch. All right, this is my 1 inch from that leg on both front and back. Okay, so on the shoulder line, from the shoulder tip, I will come in by 1/2 inch. And mark, and here as well I will do the same thing, and I will mark. I'm going to pick my ruler and place it and connect this point on the shoulder and this point on the waistline together. This line that I just drew is going to be my slash line. This is my slash line, okay? And I will do the same thing here from this point to this point with a straight line. You can see what it looks like. If you feel that this line is too slanted, you can, instead of coming in from this dark leg outward by 1 inch, you can come in by 1.5 inches, so that at least this line as it's coming like this, it will hit this point. I hope you understand. So your line can now be this way. So it's, for me, I think it's not bad this way, because this is the standard way of doing it. I will just move to this shoulder line and redraw my shoulder. Don't forget that the flange is going to cover, you know, it's going to like serve as a sleeve kind of for this. So you may not bother to add sleeve to it, okay? So now I will just follow the 1/2 inch that I marked here, this point. I will follow it and just position my ruler this way or in a curvy manner. Okay, so I will, okay, let me do it this way. So just from this point, so this side now is going to be removed with the scissors. I don't need this point again. So my dart is like this now, straight. I hope you understand. So here as well is going to be the same thing. So I'll just follow this mark that I have. So I have connected and straightened it. Can you see? So my armhole is from here round like that to this very point. So I'm going to be separating this because this is my slash line. I hope you understand my point. And I'm going to be removing this part. This part is going to be removed. Okay, so my slash line is going to be this way. You can just label it side, front, side, back. So this is what I have. So I have cut it. Can you see I've removed it completely? This is the cutout for the back, and this one is for the front. I didn't know my camera wasn't recording. Okay, so but there's no problem. I did what I told you I wanted to do, just to trim it out where I had already marked, and that was exactly what I did. All right, sir, this is what I have. Now for the front, for the neckline, I mean, you can go with any neckline you want. Going to this point, and this point, 2 inches away from the center back and 2 inches away from the center front. Now it depends on you actually, but I would advise that there will be gathers around here, okay? And this is going to be a kind of control for the gathers that you will have on the waistline. You can sew in the dart from this point, this line, this opening to the end of the dart, okay? You can sew it in, beautiful. And you can also gather it. Now if you want to gather, this spot here is where your gathers should start from. And the reason is because usually when you are gathering, for example, when you are gathering from here to here, is different from when you sew it in. Now, if you sew this in, for example, let me just measure what I have here. The width of the dart. From here, I have about 3 inches. From this point to this point is 3 inches. Now, if you want to sew it in, what you do is to fold it normally the way you fold a dart, then you sew. All right, so that means you're folding in half. That means 1.5, 1.5. You fold it in and you sew. Now, in this case, you are not sewing it in. Now, if you sew this in, that means 3 inches will be deducted from the measurement on the waistline. Now, if you have from here to here 10 inches and you sew in 3 inches, that means you have removed 3 inches and you have 7 inches left. By the time you sew it in and you measure this, it will be like 7 inches because the width of the dart you have there is 3 inches. Now, in the situation whereby you are not interested in sewing it, you want to have that gathers kind of effect on your waistline, then you need to create a control for it. Because if you gather, you are not going to remove 3 inches from it. It's not possible. When you gather, there will still be like a left over that you will not be able to gather. So sewing a dart in is different, because sewing a dart in removes the dart automatically, remove everything about the dart. But gathering the dart will still leave some behind. And that is why there's a need for a control. I hope you understand. So you are going to start your gathering from this point. I hope you understand. So when you start gathering, maybe after cutting your fabric like this, then you mark out this point and this point. Then you can now gather. By the time you gather here, from here to this point, and you measure what you have on your waistline, you will notice that, part of this part is already, pushed in, gathered in with the gathers. So you will have exactly the amount that you are supposed to have when your dart is being sewn, or after your dart is being sewn. I hope you understand my point. So this is going to be a control for this. All right. So here you will do the same thing. So you start your gathering from this point to this very point. And please make sure that you put paper here under this. So after putting paper, you tape it down, and you can now fold your dart. After, make sure the paper, goes beyond this line. Okay, so that by the time you fold in the dart and you trim with your scissors, then the dart can have this kind of shape, this kind of triangular shape on the waistline. So this is so important, because by the time you are gathering, you would also need to also consider that. Then you can now blend it round. Once you achieve that shape, okay, then you use your curve ruler and blend it. All right, so that shape that you have here, underneath your dart is so important. The next thing to do right now on your pattern is to measure this line, this slash line here. Measure it right from the waist to the shoulder. For my flange, I need this measurement, very important. 17.25 as my flange length, just on the front bodice. For this, I have, let me just measure what I have here. 17.75. I have 17.75. Okay, so 17.75 for the back, 17.25 for the front. So this is the measurement I need for my flange, and I also need the width of the flange on the shoulder level. So you can determine that mine, I will be making mine to be 3 inches. Yours would be more than that. Before I start doing the pattern or making the pattern for the flange, I am going to just cut this out. I'm going to separate this, okay? Then you can provide some checkpoints to guide you when you are joining. For example, I have a line here connecting to this point. So this is it, and I will just mark it. I will do the same on my fabric, so that this is the line I will be looking out for by the time I'm joining back, okay? Then this point as well, I will just make it as a checkpoint. So these are the points that would guide me when I am joining, all right? You can just mark the end point of this as well. Now, all right, so this is what I have. So right now I am done separating the front, and I will do the same on the back. Then I can now go to the pattern drafting of the flange. All right, this is the paper I want to use to draft my pattern for my flange inset. Now this is going to be an inset. Why? Because it's going to be sewn into the bodice. So, and that's why I call it an inset, because it's going to be in inside a particular, position or line on the bodice. So right now, this is my paper, and usually I am supposed to fold the paper. I'm supposed to fold the paper like this. Okay, so fold the paper like this. Make sure that before you even fold your paper, you have the total length of your flange on the paper. Mine is 17¼ and 17¾ so that's I have about 35 inches. So make sure that the paper you are using is up to 35 or more. For example, because there will be seam allowance as well, so maybe let it be like 36 inches as your length from this point to this point. My paper is not up to that, okay? My paper is not up to that, but you should understand that this is just a class, okay? So my paper is about 24 point something, but you should have your total length and like an inch or 2 extra, just in case you may need it. All right, so let's assume this is my 35 inches or probably 36 inches. Let's just ensure that this one is my back. Anywhere can be your back or front. This is my front, okay? Back, front, or front, back, whichever one you want. All right, so from here to this point is the length for my back, which is 17¾ From this point, to this point is the length for my front. I hope you understand what I'm saying. Now that you have the midpoint, you are going to decide or determine how many width or the width that you want your flange to have. So mine is 3 inches. So all I would do is just to come here. This is the place, the midpoint. Then you measure 3 inches from the fold line. 3 inches. 3 inches. And let me just say this. I would advise that you have a paper that the width is more than 3 inches, okay? So that this, your line, instead of starting it on the fold line, you can just move it a little. For example, from here, instead of starting my measurement from this point, I'll just measure like ½ inch. I'll measure ½ inch and I will mark. Let me just do it that way so that you understand better. ½ inch from here, mark. ½ inch from here as well, mark. And I will tell you the reason why I want it that way. So here, ½ inch. From here, inward ½ inch. From here, inward ½ inch. So you can now connect with your ruler. Okay, so whatever measurement I am going to be inserting is going to be from this line. Okay, now this line is going to be like for a seam allowance. This is going to serve as my seam allowance, but I will tell you why I want it that way. So from here, I will measure 3 inches as the width of my flange. So my measurement is from here to here, and make sure that this point is also, you connect a line into the paper. This is so important so that you have a very straight line. This is it, 3 inches from this point to this point. Okay, and here I have from here to here, the width of my flange on the back, and from here to here, my flange length on the back, and from here, my flange length on the front. Okay, very, very important. Now, what you're going to do, now that you have, determined of this or decided that it's 3 inches you want, you can go beyond that. It can be 3½, it can be 4 inches. So it depends on what you have. Then you just pick your ruler from this point, then you connect it to the end point. So you can now blend it a little. This pointed part, you blend it a little. You need to add seam allowance. So from this point, and that's why I said you should try and make sure that the length you insert on the back and the front is more than the length that you desire. For example, if mine is 17¾ okay, then I can make it like 18.5, you know, that's 17.75 plus 1. You could be, it will now be 18.75 and all of that, so that by the time you are done, then you can add your seam allowance. You know when you're adding your seam allowance, like, you can't add it straight. You have to add it based on the shape that you have here. So you need some, you know, extension, some allowance here, so that it will enable you add your seam allowance. So just please note that. Now this is my seam allowance, like 1/2 inch. Please don't mind my drawing. So my seam allowance 1/2 inch. Okay, and seam allowance here as well, 1/2 inch is already added. Now the reason why I want you to add it is that by the time you cut this out, I would advise you add stay to it, a strong stay. It could be a collar stay, something strong, an interfacing that is very strong, that will hold the structure. And that is the beauty of, that is what brings that attraction, that beauty. Okay, so because this is a fold fabric, so I'll just cut it from here. What I would advise you also do, if you want to cut an interfacing, like I said, strong interfacing for this, you can even place this on a paper and use your tracing wheel. You place this on another paper and trace the original shape out. Now this is a seam allowance. This is a seam allowance. This is equally a seam allowance. So all you are tracing with your tracing wheel is this, the shape itself is what you are tracing. All right, so that is the shape. So by the time you trace this shape out on another paper, you can now use that paper and place it on your collar stay or whatever stay you decide to use and cut it out. Now, after cutting it out, you have to place it. You have to place it here because it is one for each. Okay, I really need to explain how you're going to fix it. So let's assume this is my cutout. This is my flange. And already I have my paper stay or my whatever stay, the strong stay inside it, you know, without seam allowance. You don't add seam allowance to your stay because the stay is going to be ironed or pressed into the fabric on the wrong side, and it's going to just take this shape from here to here alone. That's all. You are not going to include the seam allowance. So like I said, you are going to, now you can on one side of it, okay, and let the side be the side that would be showing, that will be exposed. Okay, so now you are going to cut into two. Now this is my wrong side. Okay, so let me just indicate B, which is the back on the right side. This is the right side, and here is my front. Okay, so and this is, you know, this is the back, my right, back, then front, right. Okay, you can see I have cut it into two. Now this alone is just for one sleeve. Okay, you know, it was together before I cut it. So now, like I said, you will paste your stay here, iron it firm, and as you iron it, sorry, on the wrong side, this is the wrong side, wrong side, wrong side. Okay, so on this wrong side, your stay will be here. There will not, you don't need to add stay to both sides, no, just one side, because the stay is very strong. So, and the stay does not have seam allowance, so which means you have this free from stay, you have this allowance free from stay. And after doing that, what you will do, because this side is going to be the side that will be outside, okay, and this right side would also be outside. I hope you understand. All right, so what you will do now, you will now place it right side to right side and sew. Then where are you going to sew? You are going to sew the edge, this edge. So this is the right side, this is my right side. Okay, so right side to right side, place it this way. Okay, and do what? And you sew. From this point, you sew. Now, I'll quickly use my pin and pin it round, then show you when I'm done. All right, this is it. So I am assuming that I have sewn this side, and I'm going to turn it right now. So I am assuming that the stay is inside, okay? Because I said the wrong side is going to carry the stay, one side of the wrong side. And the side of the wrong side that will carry the stay will be the part that will face up, okay? It will be the part that will face up, meaning the part that will be exposed, not the one down. So this is what I have, okay? And of course, I still have seam allowance here. So this seam allowance is what you are going to sew in into your bodice. Here is my front. Do you understand it? And can you see? So here is going to be the front. So the front is going to be like this. Or you know what? You are going to attach this one and the back first. The back and front shoulder, you are going to join it first. So you are going to join it first. So after joining it, it will be like this. Okay, so this is the joining. This is the joining of this is the front to back. You join it first, and after joining it will be one. Okay, then you will now sew this in. Sew it in like that till the end. Then you now attach this and stop wherever you want to stop. Then you do the same thing on the back. It's very simple actually. So this is very, very simple. So this is what you would do and you are good to go. Okay, so you are not sewing. That's why I said your stay must not have seam allowance, because you must not sew in the stay. Okay, you must not sew in the stay. It's only the seam allowance, the fabric you should sew in, so that by the time you are done fixing and you are done joining this as well, then it can now rest like this and stand like this. I hope you understand. So because if you sew in the stay, it will just be like this. It will not rest well. I hope you are getting me. All right, thank you so much for watching my video, and I will see you in my next video. Bye for now.